I remember meeting Harvest Duhig in the fall of 2017 up on Atlas Peak, unfortunately, right after the fire. So our timing was a little strange, but she was one of the most amazing human beings I'd ever met. And even in that time where we were all super stressed because there was a lot going on, Harvest was just this breath of fresh air. And to meet her is to love her, and to love her is to love her wines, which is what we're tasting right here. This is the 2022 Duhig Grenache coming from Suisun Valley. Now, I've got to talk about Suisun Valley. If you are a fan of, a little known wine called Camus, then you might have heard that Chuck Wagner, who is the proprietor and winemaker at Camus, has been doing a lot in Suisun as of late. He has been buying up land there. He just opened a winery there, and he is really sort of making a major investment in this place, which is really just the county adjacent to Napa Valley. So as you cross over the Vaca side of the mountain range, that's when you're getting into Suisun. What's really interesting is that Suisun Valley has a lot of the same characteristics in terms of terroir that Napa Valley has. But the beautiful thing is that land there is still very, very affordable. And so you're getting wines at a fraction of the price. Now, why is this all relevant? Why are we talking about Camus? Well, the reason that we're talking about Camus is Harvest Duhig, whose wine this is, has been on the winemaking team at Camus for over 20 years. But this is her own label. This is her namesake label. She started with a Cabernet coming from her own vineyard in Coombsville. But when she started working with some of the vineyards in Suisun Valley alongside Chuck Wagner and saw some of the Grenache that was coming off of there, she said, I have to add this to my roster. And I'm so glad that she did, because this wine really is something that I want to drink on a more regular basis. I love her Cabernet so much, but it's not something that we can drink every single night. This is a more accessible find. This is a lovely, sort of light-bodied, beautiful representation of New World Grenache. So let's talk about this grape a little bit, Grenache. I love Grenache. For me, this is the grape that reminds me of my childhood. I was obsessed with strawberry fruit roll-ups as a kid. Like, I can still feel how you would unwrap it and how it would smell coming out, and that first taste, picking up the little stars. Anyway, for those of you who've never had a fruit roll-up, please do yourself a favor and go to the grocery store and get one. Grenache feels like a strawberry fruit roll-up, and especially when it comes from warm climate places like Northern California in Napa Valley, Sonoma, and Suisun, where we have this coming from here. What's really interesting about this is there is an enormous amount of wind coming through in this particular area. And so the grape skins get really nice and thick, but you also tend to find your Grenaches, which can be a little soupy, higher in acidity and a little bit more body. So I love Grenaches like this that give you all of that sun-kissed fruit, but also have really nice balance when it comes to the acid. We want acid in our wines. They help to elevate them, and they also help to make them really pairable with foods. Let's smell this. I mean, tell me you're not getting strawberry fruit roll-up. This is crazy. We love this nose. I mean, it is just like bursting with strawberry. There's something a little spicy in there. You often get lots of black pepper with Grenache, and this is such a classic example. I'm also super excited because this is one of my very first wines that I am bringing to Wine Access myself. So it's an Amanda special. When Harvest came to me and said, I have this Grenache, I think that I might have a little extra beyond my normal wine club. Her wines are always very allocated. We had this conversation, and I was like, well, what if we have it for the wine club? What do you think about that? And she loved the idea. So this is really something that you're not going to see a lot of places because there's just not that much of it. So continuing on to the palate. I mean, silky, soft, easy texture. I mean, this is like velvet in a glass right now, but it's like light and fruity and bouncy, and it like gives, I'm looking at these like flowers on my pillow right now, and it's like there's something about these flowers, these like, I don't even know what they are. They're like kind of hydrangea-esque looking. That's kind of like the image that I'm getting in my brain. I don't know, this wine is just evoking all sorts of things for me outside of strawberries. It's super floral, it's super lush. What I love is that it's just so stinking easy to drink. Now, I will mention that I did put this in my fridge for about 20 minutes before I served it, which I highly recommend. I think this is a wine that really wants to be served at proper cellar temperature, so about 55 degrees Fahrenheit. And I think what that's going to do is help to kind of brighten everything up and allow some of those aromatics and flavors to pop forward. You'll notice that the texture on this wine is super, super light, almost as if you're drinking a Pinot Noir, but much more fruity. When people tell me that they don't love tannin, that dry astringency, that cotton ball feeling in their mouth, there's two grapes that I always direct them to, and that's Pinot Noir and Grenache. Grenache is not typically a grape that gives you tons of tannin. So what I love is that the texture for this wine is very, very soft, but there's still a lot of structure going on here as well. We're talking about Grenache in the fall season, and obviously this is a grape and a wine that I'm gravitating towards because it works so incredibly well with all of the foods that we're going to start to be bringing out this time of year. So I am definitely always in the Grenache, the Pinot camp. I've also talked about a Pinotage that I think is really beautiful in fall. And this wine is definitely representative of all the fall flavors that we're going to be enjoying. But the difference is this is going to give you all that fruitiness, all that suppleness, and it's a wine that I think that can be really enjoyed with food, but it doesn't necessarily have to have food. One thing I will mention, and this is kind of a fun little thing, I think Grenache works really well as one of these like after school specials. So I've mentioned this a time or two across my Instagram and my channels, but one thing that I love to do is have wine with some of those like more kid-friendly snacks. So goldfish, peanut butter pretzels, all those things that you had as a kid that you might like continue to sneak as an adult. Wines like this, for some reason, they just work really well. So do yourself a favor if you're having a glass of this and you're not enjoying it with dinner, go grab like a handful of peanut butter pretzels, go grab some goldfish, grab some potato chips. I promise you, this wine's going to have a whole other life, and I think you're absolutely going to love it.